Hi, it's Dr. Reed here, and welcome to my podcast today. Today, I have my co-host here, Alicia. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I've been waiting for this like the whole day.
That's great. So today, we're going to have our discussion on post-traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm.
Post-traumatic stress disorder is the person basically re-experiencing the memories of their traumatic events, right? It's very important to sort of understand how memories operate, right?
Right.
Memories are like access to virtual worlds, right? And the thing about these virtual worlds is that they no longer exist,
Oh,
right?
it's kind of delusional in a way.
No, but those things really happened. The traumatic things
Right.
really happened. But what happens is that um, the when the person remembers the event is a simulation of what happened in the past.
Like flashbacks, basically.
Right, right. But they're not, the past doesn't exist.
Yeah,
You
very
got
complicated.
well, right. Okay, think about this. Okay, the past. Okay, does the past exist?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does the past exist?
It does, yeah,
How does the past exist?
because we experienced it.
Okay, so you have a record of the event that took place in the previous times.
Indeed, yeah.
Right. Now, what happens in PTSD, this record, when you upload it, it's sort of like uploaded as like a virtual experience, right?
Right.
The memories become a virtual experience and you there again. So in PTSD, you're like reliving the traumatic experience because it's more precipitated through uploading the memories.
Oh, so it's like a whole re-experience again.
Right, but right now it's more like a simulated experience that the person
Oh.
believes that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Uh,
So we're going to have this interesting discussion on post-traumatic stress disorder, and here I'm going to let's see. I have Chat GTP here. Let me clean off my desktop. I hope
I
my
mean,
mic.
re-exper- I mean, re-experiencing the whole incident again must be painful for the person, especially if it was traumatic.
Oh, it's awful, awful. Um, it can present itself in so many ways. One of the ways it can present itself is avoidance.
Oh,
Imagine being traumatized and then having to avoid the thing that you want the most, let's say school.
oh, right.
So someone gets traumatized and now they have difficulty being in groups, difficulty going places where they've been traumatized, difficulty being around the people, and it can significantly limit your capacity and abilities.
I
To,
mean, people do also resort to like self harm and stuff.
Mhm. Yep. So let's say what's explain post. Um, okay. So here, explain post-traumatic stress disorder and focus on the neuropsychiatric networking. I want to know like the networks and things like that. What's happening down there? The signaling, the receptors, and the pathway. Uh, let's roll. Yeah, the default mode salience network. This is a very important network right here.
Mm.
Neurochemical receptors and receptor level changes, monoamine systems. Yeah, this is the history. Well, this is very interesting. This is amazing. Everything associated with it. The hippocampus, pituitary adrenal axis, and cortisol dysregulation. Endocannabinoid systems. Okay, the CB. This is the can. I don't know. I live in Chicago, and cannabis in Illinois, cannabis is legal, right? Yeah,
No.
you can just walk to the store and buy it. It's smoking it.
Insane, wild.
Yeah, it's like. I think it's better for society too because, as you'll see, when I've never seen anyone get admitted for cannabis dependency or use at all. Never. Um,
Oh, right. Does
CB.
make sense, yeah.
Yeah. So if it was dangerous, you would think that you would see it in the hospital, whereas cocaine and alcohol, you see it in the hospital all the time.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, alcohol, they can't stay out of the hospital. Yeah. CB1 receptors, especially in the amygdala. CB1 receptors are in the amygdala and hippocampus regulate fear extinction. PTSD often shows reduced endocannabinoid signaling, impaired emotional regulation, and extinction learning. Very interesting. So the opioid neuropeptides, okay, key pathways, clinical integration, in a summary. All right. Okay. And so let me just go through this, and I'm gonna try and get through this in 20 minutes for the students. Okay. So
Okay.
PTSD is a complex neuropsychiatric condition that develops after exposure to a severe trauma,
Mm-hmm.
combat, assault, disaster. It also involves persistent symptoms of re-experiencing. Remember the repeated memories I was saying? And
Yeah, exactly.
it's like they upload virtual experiences where they feel like they're really there. You know, hyper arousal because they're in the movie, right? Remember I saying avoidance and things like that, trying to avoid things that can potentially harm them. And negative mood and content can really foster a severe depression and interfere with your cognitive functioning too. The disorder represents a maladaptive response to the brain stress, fear, and memory circuits. See, yeah, memory circuits right there, involving dysregulation across several neural networks, neurotransmitters, and receptor systems. So, as a layperson, are you getting this? Is this?
It is. Pretty comprehensible, yeah.
But then you're in the background of engineering, though. This is going strictly into the most neuropsychiatry, but this AI seems to explain it in relatively.
Yeah, exactly. Words are easy. Like I can easily comprehend what's written, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Now let me just see the amygdala. Let me show you where these things are at. Okay. Let me just show you what the amygdala is. The fear center. Uh, Here's the brain. Here's the amygdala
Oh,
right here. Yeah, this is this small almond shaped structure here, and like it says, it processes emotions, particularly fear and anxiety.
uh,
Right. So when this network malfunctions, you get a significant amount of fear. You see what I'm saying? So the panic attack may have more to do with the symptoms, may have more to do with the malfunction in this amygdala and it precipitating signals of panic and terror and all that. Does that make sense?
exactly. It
So
does, yeah.
so there's a process whereby they start to remember the event, upload the memory as a virtual experience, start living it out, experiencing as if it's before them, and that's that amygdala going off, going off, going off, and sending them to that. But remember, the past does not exist, and they're thinking about things that happened in the past. So this is not real. This is just a um, um, illusionary response that's
Revolutionary.
by
So,
the ego because the person uploaded these uploading traumatic experience. Does that make sense? Okay, but basically, it's dysfunction in the amygdala,
oh, so
right?
it all depends upon it, yeah.
Yeah. Fear and threat detection. The function is central to fear conditioning and threat response, right? When this goes off, okay, imagine you sitting down at a restaurant with you, your family's friends, and a lion walk into the room, right?
Oh,
You're not going to have any motivation for getting up out of there, right? I mean, not a problem at all.
exactly.
Everything's going to be working instantly, right? How cool
Exactly.
is that?
For sure.
Think about that. Boom. And look, the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Where for the back.
Constant palpitation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's when the lion walks into the room, right? Right. And then you don't even talk
Exactly.
about that. Your brain working normally, right? But then what if your brain perceives that a lion is walking in the room, but an actual lion is not walking in the room? So when it
That is a dysfunction, yeah.
right, and so I think the function, I think the dysfunction is when your brain says, okay, we're gonna impose an early warning system. So anytime I see any of the indicators of a lion, then we're gonna trigger the response to get out early to save ourselves. So it
It's a
starts triggering every time they see, it's like they got triggered every time they see cats.
it's an it's an involuntary response, right?
It's an adaptive yep. You can't you look, when that lion walks into the room, you don't have any choice but to start your heart.
Exactly.
You won't be able to start, right? It operates on its own, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so condition and threat response. PTSD effect. The amygdala is hyperactive, leading to exaggerated fear, hypervigilance, and emotional reactivity. Connected reason receives input from the thalamus, which is the sensory relay, sends outputs to the hypothalamus and the periaqueductal gray. These are deep structures within the brain. The thalamus, which relay center, the hypothalamus, the autonomic response, stress
I
response.
do I do remember studying all these in biology.
Hey. Okay. Now the prefrontal cortex, regulation and extinction, function, the prefrontal cortex, let me show you here. That's where the amygdala is. The prefrontal this is the prefrontal cortex here.
Oh, right.
It's in here. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So here, this is I showed you the amygdala there, the prefrontal
Mm-hmm.
cortex, regulation and extinction. Look at how much surface area. Now the amygdala is just that small almond-shaped switch. It's like a switch, right? Boom, boom,
Exactly.
boom, 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 boom. All in it is fear and stress. Boom, 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 on and off. Get up out of there. Out of there.
This is
That's all you have to do. Get up out of there. That's it. Right? So
exactly.
almond shape. But look how much territory is responsible for interpreting the
It's enormous compared to that.
yeah, enormous. Um, so its function is to inhibit the amygdala. It means to shut it down, right?
Oh, right.
It shuts down driven fear and regulates emotional responses. This is that part of the prefrontal cortex is a part of your frontal lobe that's responsible for what's called your executive functioning. That's you being a CEO, right? And then you're going to have to inhibit the switching from the amygdala, particularly when it turns on inappropriately, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Imagine a situation in stage fright. The person is about to go in front of an audience. Also, that's the amygdala, right? And then they have to calm down.
Exactly.
That's why they have to give the lady flowers. I think that role of the princess, the actress who everybody gotta suck up to because she's so emotionally fragile, gotta play the role and everything. And so the fear, the amygdala, and then they calm down. And then I guess give you reason. Hey, calm down, relax. You do this all the time. Me, prefrontal cortex inhibiting the amygdala. Now, patients with brain damage who have damage to the prefrontal cortex cannot inhibit those responses, and so their fear responses will be disproportionate. PTSD victims with brain damage who have frontal lobe damage that they cannot suppress the intense impulses of that amygdala. That's why you hear people with severe trauma and brain injuries often doing things that are very dangerous because they can't stop themselves. They don't have the inhibition here.
So they lose total control over it.
There's nothing to stop the impulses. PT affects the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and the dorsolateral prefrontal. So it shows towards the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which they believe is the seat of the ego. show hypoactivity, impairing extinction, emotional regulation. You want your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to be very active because it integrates a lot of information about your environment.
Mhm.
You know, clinical chorus is difficult to distinguish safe from dangerous cues.
Mhm.
You see how this little part malfunctioning. Okay. Next, hippocampus, the context and memory function, contextual memory, inhibition of the stress response, and discrimination between past and present threats.
Oh, right.
See,
A very important one.
yep. Now let me show you what the hippocampus. That's the prefrontal cortex, and then now hippocampus is where the function where your memory is located. Let me try a better one. This whole structure here, this complex, this entire structure here is the hippocampus.
Oh, right.
I'm sorry, here, this yellow structure here is the hippocampus. This is only where your memory is located. So the hippocampus is for memory. Okay. So remember, we went through the amygdala, the almond shaped thing right here. We did the prefrontal cortex. And then here, the hippocampus is strictly your memory. Okay. So here, we're talking about the hippocampus, the context and memory. Okay. So the function of the hippocampus is contextual memory. It helps you remember all the different items that you encounter, right? Inhibition of the stress response and discrimination between past and present threat. That's hippocampus. The PTSD effect. The hippocampus often shows reduced volume and function. Yeah. Due to chronic cortisol exposure, leading to fragmented or intrusive traumatic memories. Yeah, so the PTSD is the area responsible for memory, so it becomes smaller and loses its ability to sort of regulate it. It becomes hypoactive. If it's not as active, then you can't remember as much as anyone else. If you can't remember as much as anyone else, you cannot render the same reality that everyone else around you render.
I mean, they do re-experience their past, right? So isn't their memory supposed to be like better in that way?
See, the hippocampus is the part that's sort of responsible for encoding the memories. If that process is damaged, then you do not get new memories into your brain.
Oh, that does make sense.
So that's a problem. So you looking around everything around you, but you may not be integrating everything into the networks in your brain. So for example, let's say that you're dealing with an issue that has 10 parts to it. But
Mm-hmm.
what if the person can only remember three? See, if you remember all 10 and there all those 10 items will be in your hippocampus, then when your brain goes to make render reality, it's based upon the whole 10. But if you can only get three in it, your brain is going to render reality based upon the three things. And so
Yeah.
you see, that reality is going to be different than someone else. And so that's the whole problem with the function of the hippocampus and the lobe malfunctioning. You can't trust anything that comes from memory,
Very interesting.
right? You can't, and then you don't even know if it's real,
That's the worst part. Yeah.
right? And all the because the part is damaged, the quality of the information is also damaged. You don't know what it is, but you know that they do have memory deficits. Now, here, clinical correlates. Look, flashbacks. That's yeah, disorientation, autobiographical memory. They come in with a different history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look, that's the hippocampus. Default mode and Celius networks. Okay, these are huge networks in the brain that manage entire regions of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The default mode network involves the medial prefrontal cortex. Involves a lot of stuff. Okay. In PTSD, the default mode network's connectivity is disrupted.
Right.
Okay, so this is this network this connects huge things. Can you imagine how a interstate highway would connect states.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Right. And this is how large these networks are. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, okay, salience networks involve anterior insulin dorsal cortex, detects emotional relevantly stimuli. And PTSD is hyperactive, overly flagging neutral cues as threatening.
So are these networks made up of like neurons?
hmm hmm Yeah,
Okay.
so these are huge neuron bundles. I mean,
Oh, wow.
right? Because they have to connect the whole frontal lobe and then connect this and connect this. So these are huge bundles. Neurochemical and receptor level changes. Look, glutamate is the main excitatory neuron, a neurotransmitter. So as glutamate turns everything on, and next, GABA is the main inhibitory neuron. GABA turns everything off. So in
Mhm.
PTSD, glutamate excessive activity in the in amygdala and hippocampus, right? Excitotoxicity and memory over consolidation, right? So the glutamate is just overexcited. GABA, reduce inhibitory tone. GABA is supposed to turn all these circuits off. And if GABA is not active, then these circuits are not being turned off. They've lost their brakes. Disinhibition, increase anxiety and arousal, right? So this reduce a GABA removes the brakes when the glutamate starts to excite everything. There's nothing to stop it. The GABA is nothing to stop the brakes. Key receptor NMDA and AMPA. These are both glutamate receptors, and GABA is inhibitory. Now go back and look at I did a podcast on glutamate and GABA and the GABA, the G proteins, glutamate and the G protein GABAs. You guys can go back and take a look at that, and you can see the role, because glutamate and GABA are located in almost all the tissues. Activating glutamate has an effect of activating the entire host, not just an organ or organ system. It activates the entire host. GABA, because it's present in almost all of the tissues, when GABA is activated, it has more of a impact of decreasing the activity or inhibiting the entire host. And so it's important to sort of understand the malfunction between glutamate and GABA in PTSD, because it helps you understand why the patient is in such a panic like this. It's like a flush of glutamate without the brakes, meaning without GABA. So there's nothing to
Oh,
panic attack. So the panic attack goes on and on until it sort of kindles itself.
so it lowers the effectivity, yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. Monoaminergic systems, norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine, right? Norepinephrine, here in the brain stem, heightened arousal. Look, in PTSD, norepinephrine hyperactivity, exaggerated stress activity, nightmares, hypervigilance, alpha 1 and beta adrenergic receptors implicated. Prazosin helps with these nightmares, so I use prazosin to help with nightmares. The role of serotonin dysregulations contribute to anxiety, impulsivity, and mood symptoms. Serotonin receptor downregulation, SSRIs, by helping to restore serotonergic tone. Um, Okay, then we have dopamine. It's involved in reward and salience encoded. The mesolimbic system is your system that's responsible for a reward system, and your mesolimbic system is the system that substance users target when they use the drugs of abuse like cocaine or heroin. Um,
Oh,
Activated mesolimbic systems typically associated with like intoxication and things like that. And so withdrawal is hypoactivity in these mesolimbic networks. And so that's associated with decreased interest, decreased motivation, anhedonia. Yeah, it may underlie anhedonia, emotional numbing, and things like that. Okay, so that's interesting, the monoamine system in PTSD. The HPA axis and cortisol dysregulation. This is the hippocampus, hypothalamus, pituitary adrenal, axis, and cortisol dysregulation. Normal stress pathways: hypothalamus, that is corticotropin releasing hormone, targets the pituitary gland, and it releases adrenocorticotropic hormone (ACTH) to the liver, and the adrenal glands release cortisol. This is the normal pathway. Hypothalamus,
right.
pituitary adrenus. hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And PTSD, paradoxically low cortisol but high cortisol releasing factor, corticotropic hormone releasing factor. Okay. This suggests enhanced negative feedback sensitivity in glucocorticoid receptors. Chronic hyperarousal despite low cortisol equals chronic hyperarousal despite low cortisol. Oh, so it's hypoarousal here at the hypothalamus, but then you still get low cortisol production. I'll look at that mechanism later. I think they didn't describe it here. Okay, but you can see this HPA axis is dysregulated and cortisol dysregulation and chronic PTSD. Next, endocannabinoid system. Here's the CB1 systems, especially in amygdala and hippocampus, regulate fear extinction. That's why cannabis smokers are always laid back because they don't have the fear extinction, right?
Mm-hmm.
PTSD often shows reduced endocannabinoid signaling, impaired emotional regulation, and extinction learning. Okay, yeah, I think key path. I don't think it's necessary to go through those. Okay, and then let me see if I have any questions. Hey guys, let me see if you guys have any questions. Let me know. Did you have any questions for me, Alicia?
No, not really. I understood everything.
I'm at 26 minutes. I didn't want to go too far over on PTSD, and this thing is very thorough. So I think that's all I'm going to do for today. Okay, guys, if that's it, I think that's my entire discussion on post-traumatic stress disorder. And if you have any questions, please feel questions. You can write them down in the section. Otherwise, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Otherwise, it's my presentation on PTSD. Later, we're going to do a podcast on narcissism as a network, and I'm going to talk about one of the sick behaviors that narcissists do. These are really sick people. One of the things that narcissists do is narcissists are all stalkers, right? They always stalk people.
Exactly. Yeah.
They do it covertly through other people and things like that. But they exhibit the behavior, what's called the unseen observer. And I'll explain what that's like. Now, remember, when you're dealing with these sick narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths, they actually approach you. They want to be friends very early to try to get you into their networks and get you to see things from their perspective and stuff like that. And so you have to really understand how these sick people come around you early in the early stage when they sort of meet with you. And it's something called the unseen observer. And so we're going to talk about that in our next podcast. And so I think we'll have an interesting discussion. Okay. All right, buddy. Well, if that's it, we'll talk later. Okay. Dr. Reed out. You guys, all right. Take care, guys. Ciao.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.